I used to believe that dedication would eventually be rewarded. Until the day I opened that old document folder. That afternoon, I stopped by my parents' house in Salem, Oregon, like I did every weekend. My mother, Denise, wasn't tech-savvy, so I often helped her check bills, organize tax papers, and scan important documents. That two-story red brick house, the one I had spent nearly a decade financially supporting and helping renovate tile by tile, felt like a second home to me. "Can you take a look at this for me?" she said, handing me a messy stack of papers before heading back to her orchids in the backyard. I sat down at the dining table, sifting through the pile, until my eyes landed on a thick, cream-colored envelope labeled in bold, "Estate Plan and Will." I hesitated. Not because I was curious, at least, that's what I told myself, but because I wanted to make sure everything was in order. I'd always been the one to worry about things like this, the one who kept the family from falling apart. But as I flipped to the asset distribution page, I felt a tight pressure in my chest. Everything, and I mean everything my parents owned. The house, over $450,000, 0 cents in savings, the new SUV, even Mom's wedding ring was clearly stated to go to Samantha, my younger sister. And me? Not a word. Not a single mention beyond the vague line, "We love both our daughters." I clenched the paper, my knuckles turning white. Every memory of working 2 jobs to help pay their mortgage, of driving through snowstorms to deliver Mom's medication, of fixing plumbing, replacing shingles. Each of them felt like they had just been slapped out of existence by that cold, printed sentence. I heard my mom re-enter the house, her footsteps light behind me. "Hannah, did you find the statement?" I stood up, will in hand, and turned around. My voice was calm, unavailingly calm. "Mom, is this real?" She froze, her eyes glancing at the paper in my hand. "Oh, Hannah, what does that mean?" I cut her off, my throat tight but each word sharp. "A lifetime of caring for you and Dad, and I'm written off like I never existed?" My dad, Richard, walked in from the living room just then, coffee mug in hand. He set it down with a sigh, like he was about to comment on the weather. "You don't need to react like this, Hannah. You're doing fine. Samantha, she's still figuring things out." I let out a laugh, humorless and dry. "Figuring things out? She's 30. She changes jobs every 3 months, lives off you two, and can't pay her own phone bill. I'm the one who paid your mortgage for the last 3 years, the one who fixed the roof last winter, the one who's kept this house from falling apart dollar by dollar." My mom stepped forward, placing a hand over mine as if that could calm me. "Don't overthink it. I just wanted your sister to feel secure." I pulled my hand away, nodded slightly, my gaze ice cold. "Secure? And what about me? The only one who's kept this place standing all these years?" They said nothing. I placed the will back on the table like returning a declaration of war. "Thanks for showing me where I really stand." I walked to the door without looking back. No one called out behind me. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel hurt. I just felt empty. A quiet, hollow kind of emptiness that chilled me to the bone. I never returned to that house after discovering the will. 2 weeks passed in silence, no calls, no messages, like I had never existed in their world. I told myself if they had even a shred of conscience, they'd reach out. But instead of an apology or explanation, what I got was a message from Dad. "Hannah, this month's mortgage is due. Can you transfer it soon? Deadline's Friday." I sat frozen, staring at the message in disbelief. Part of me almost laughed. No mention of what happened, no asking if I was okay. Just a demand like I was their default ATM. I typed back, every word like ice. "I think Samantha can handle it. That house is hers now, right?" Then I set my phone down and didn't wait for a reply. 10 minutes later, the screen lit up again. This time, it was Mom. "Hannah, don't do this. We need to talk." I didn't answer. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just a kind of ruthless clarity had taken the place of every fragile hope I once held. For years, I believed my sacrifices would be acknowledged. I was wrong. And I had no interest in playing savior anymore. 3 days later, the next message came. From Samantha. You're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You've always been independent, and I'm just... not. You know that. I typed slowly, each word cutting through my sister's fake mask. Then prove you deserve what you've been given. Start by paying the mortgage. No response. Another week passed in silence, until one Monday morning, while I was sipping coffee in my kitchen, my phone buzzed with a transfer request. Exactly $2,900.00 from my mom. No message. Just a cold withdrawal request, as emotionless as the way they'd written me out of everything. I hit decline without a second's hesitation. Minutes later, the phone rang. It was Mom. I let it ring to the fourth buzz, then declined the call. A message followed immediately. Hannah, I know you saw it. Why did you decline? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and replied, because it's no longer my responsibility. Ask Samantha. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had control. I wasn't the one scrambling to fix cracks I didn't create. I wasn't sacrificing my entire youth to patch up other people's failures. 3 days later, Samantha texted again. You're being so selfish. Didn't you always say family comes first? I reread that message over and over. Family? The family she was talking about was the same one that treated me like an outsider, like a walking wallet. I replied with one sentence. Family is about fairness and respect, not using someone until they're no longer useful. After that, there were no more messages. Silence settled over everything, but this time, it didn't feel lonely. It felt like relief, a release from a burden I'd carried for far too long. But deep down, I knew. This silence was only the beginning, because they'd be back. When no one else would help. When the house was at risk of foreclosure. When Samantha, with all that inheritance, still wouldn't know how to pay a bill on time. And when that moment came, I'd be ready. Not to save them, but to show them that I was no longer the one who would sacrifice without so much as a thank you. The next message from Samantha came near midnight while I was halfway through a historical novel and sipping hot tea. The phone lit up, and I didn't even need to open it to guess the tone. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I scrolled and kept reading. Everyone's already stressed out. Why are you choosing now to be dramatic? It's just a few payments. You've always done it. A dry laugh slipped from my lips, without any humor at all. Just a few payments. Easy to say when you've never paid a utility bill in your life. I typed back. I'm not being dramatic, I'm being clear, and you better get used to it. Less than a minute later, she replied, You're seriously selfish. Don't be surprised if Mom and Dad don't forgive you. I set the phone down. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I wasn't haunted by what if they're upset, or obsessed with being the good daughter. I had crossed the line between being exploited and standing up for myself. The next day, I called the bank and requested my name be removed from the joint account used for the mortgage. I also contacted the utility companies and canceled all the auto payments I'd been secretly handling for years. I'd deleted the bill reminders on my phone, like a small ceremony marking the end of my role in their household. That night, I cleaned up my tiny apartment, played my favorite playlist, and bought myself a chocolate cake I'd always loved but never bought, because the money always had to go toward more important things. I started sleeping soundly. I woke up without the jolt of a payment notification. I went to work without feeling like I was dragging 3 other adults on my back. I even signed up for an online art class, something I dreamed about for years but always pushed aside because I didn't have time or really wasn't allowed to be selfish. And as my life started to breathe on its own again, the knocks from the past came louder. Early the following week, my mom, Denise, called. I didn't answer. A message came right after. Hannah, we need to talk. Your sister doesn't know how to pay the internet bill. Can you help? I didn't respond. 2 days later, another one. The landline got cut. She says she can't log in. I don't know what to do. I read the message, then opened the bookshelf and pulled out the old notebook, where I'd once written down every password, billing schedule, and customer service number. Every time my parents didn't know what to do, they called me. Every time Samantha forgot a payment, I handled it. This time, I closed the notebook and put it back. I wasn't their assistant. I wasn't the backbone of a system that erased me the second I stopped being useful. 3 days later, another message from Samantha landed in my inbox. Are you kidding me right now? The power's about to be shut off. Are you really going to let that happen to our family? I replied with just one sentence. No, I'm just letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices. Silence. I didn't hear anything for several more days. Until one morning, a call came from an unexpected number. Mrs. Lorraine, the neighbor who'd lived next to my parents for the last 20 years. Your mom asked if I knew anyone selling houses. I think they're not managing well anymore. I thanked her, then hung up. I didn't feel smug. I didn't smile, but I didn't cry either. I just sat by the window, watching sunlight spill through the trees out front, and realized something. For the first time in my life, I wasn't being crushed by duty or guilt. I had chosen to step out of the cycle, and I wasn't going back. The first message came on Monday morning, from someone I didn't expect. Mr. Walter, the neighbor who'd lived next door to my parents for over 20 years. Hannah, are your parents okay? Denise asked what day it was. She thought she got the date wrong, but she just got a letter from the bank. It clearly says, Notice of Foreclosure. I stared at the screen. So it had happened. Faster than I expected. 4 weeks since I stopped all support. 4 weeks for the house I once kept from falling apart to finally start collapsing. An hour later, my mom called. I didn't answer. A message followed right after the ring. Hannah, please. We really need you right now. It's serious. I read it, then set the phone down like it had nothing to do with me. But in truth, my chest still felt heavy. I had once thought this moment would bring some twisted sense of satisfaction, but it didn't. Only a hollow, aching fatigue. Maybe because I was too used to cleaning up after others. I didn't reply. 2 days later, for the first time in weeks, Samantha showed up at my door. She stood there in a wrinkled hoodie, no makeup, clutching a messy stack of documents. Her eyes gave away the panic. I just need 5 minutes, she said, breathless. Just 5 minutes, Hannah. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway, not a single ounce of sympathy in my eyes. You here to ask for money? Not money, she blurted out, her voice shaky. I need your help talking to the bank. I don't understand the terms they're using. I'm overwhelmed. What about the inheritance you got? I asked, my tone as casual as commenting on the weather. She looked down and mumbled, It's tied up in an investment portfolio. If I withdraw now, there's a penalty. I didn't think it would spiral this fast. I raised an eyebrow. Yet you signed for everything without hesitation. I thought Mom and Dad had it under control. They said it was all set. I didn't think. Exactly. You didn't think. Like, always. Samantha fell silent. I stepped out and pulled the door closed behind me. This is the lesson you need to learn. Everyone stumbles. But no one grows if someone's always there to catch them. You're really going to let them lose the house? I'm not letting anything happen. They made their choice, now they live with it. I turned away, leaving Samantha standing alone in the building's hallway. 3 days later, I ran into Ben, an old classmate turned real estate agent, at a networking event at the local arts center. I was just about to tell him about the photo project I'd been working on when he interrupted, eyes wide. Hey, is your parents' house on Vine Street? I nodded. Someone on my team mentioned them. Sounds like they're urgently looking to sell. Old house, needs work, high foreclosure risk. Are you doing okay? I gave a faint smile. I'm fine. I guess they're not. Ben looked like he wanted to say more but decided against it. That night, I opened my laptop and spotted an email from a legal aid organization I volunteered with back in college. They were recruiting mentors for a new program, helping seniors manage housing debt. I smiled softly. Life had a strange way of circling back. I sat quietly for a long moment before starting the application. Not for my parents. Not for Samantha. For me. The one who had finally learned to let go. I didn't need to save the old house anymore. But if I could use what I'd been through to keep someone else from falling into that same cycle, that would be worth it. Saturday afternoon, I had just wrapped up a photography workshop and returned to my quiet little apartment, expecting nothing more than a hot cup of tea and a peaceful evening. But as I pulled into the parking lot, I saw a familiar silver minivan parked near the gate. 4 years ago, I had co-signed for that van when my dad, Richard, could no longer make the payments. I'd transferred the title to him last year as a final gesture of trust. Now it sat there like a bitter reminder. I got out of my car, walking slowly. My parents stood waiting near the building entrance. Samantha stood a bit behind, clutching her purse, eyes full of barely concealed worry. I said nothing. I stopped a few steps away, arms crossed, waiting. My mother, Denise, spoke first. Her voice was trembling. Hannah, I'm sorry we had to come here, but things have gotten out of hand. The bank's coming to reassess the property next week. My father continued, his voice lower and wearier than I'd ever heard. We made a mistake, I know that, but if the house is taken, your mother won't be able to handle it. I looked straight at him, my gaze colder than it had ever been. Then why, when writing the will, did you decide I wasn't worth including? He dropped his eyes, fingers fidgeting with the edge of his coat. Back then, we thought you'd be fine. You've always been strong. But Samantha, I interrupted, gets to fail, gets forgiven, and inherits everything. I turned to face my sister. She pressed her lips together, said nothing. No denial, no excuse. I gave away my youth, I said, my voice quiet but every word sharp, without conditions. And in return, I got disregard. And the assumption that Hannah will take care of it. I'm not in that role anymore. My mother's tears fell. We didn't know it would come to this. Can't you help? Just a little, just for a few months until things stabilize. I shook my head, a breeze in my chest sweeping away years of obligation. I'm not saying no because I can't help. I'm saying no because if I do, everyone will go right back to believing they never need to change. Samantha finally spoke, her voice small and broken. I didn't realize it would get so complicated. I thought it just needed time. I didn't think you'd walk away so fast. I looked at her, for the first time in weeks. I didn't walk away fast, I warned. I waited. I hoped. But our family chose to ignore all of it. So, this is really the end? My mom whispered, tears still fresh on her cheeks. I looked at her. The woman who once rocked me to sleep, who I'd brought medicine to, taken to the ER, cooked for after my dad retired. And I saw, clearer than ever, the line between blood and actual love. I didn't end this, I said. It ended the moment you decided who deserved to be named and who didn't. No one said a word. The late autumn wind whistled through the bare trees, carrying with it a chill that no jacket could warm. I stepped up onto the porch, pulled out my keys, and unlocked the door. Before walking inside, I turned back one last time. I hope you find a way, but I'm no longer the lifeline for this family. I looked at Samantha and spoke slowly. If you truly want to grow up, this is your chance. I've stepped off the merry-go-round. Now it's your turn. I walked in and shut the door behind me. The sound of the wind in the hallway drowned out their footsteps as they left. I stood quietly in my living room, afternoon sunlight casting a long beam across the floor through the glass. No tears. no heartbreak, just a silence, peaceful. I thought that after that final confrontation, they'd go quiet. I had hoped the truth would make them reflect and quietly step back out of pride. But I overestimated the self-awareness of people who've always lived off others. A week later, I got a message from Olivia, a close coworker at the art center. "Hannah, are you on Facebook? You should check your mom's page. She's posting some unbelievable stuff." My hand trembled slightly as I typed Denise Baker into the search bar. Her timeline was filled with emotional posts, flower photos, and inspirational quotes, but what made me freeze was one standout post, with a picture of our old house attached. It's heartbreaking when your own daughter turns her back on family, abandoning sick and aging parents, refusing to help in our time of need. After everything we sacrificed for her. Over 80 shares. The comments were full of sympathy, comfort, and judgment for the ungrateful child. I bit my lip, scrolling further, and saw another post. This one from my dad, Richard. "We thought Hannah was someone who loved her family, but when we needed her the most, she walked away without a word. The house is about to be taken and she acts like nothing's happening." Then came a post from Samantha, with a clearly mocking tone. "Some people are only kind when they're above you, looking down. But when family asks them to step down and help, they choose silence." That's today's version of strong, I guess. I gripped my phone tighter. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even shocked. I was tired. When guilt didn't work on me anymore, they turned to public shaming. But they forgot one thing. I wasn't silent anymore. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into my Facebook, which I rarely used. I made a single post. No background color, no fancy design. But every word was clear as daylight. My family is sharing a one-sided story, so, to be fair, here's the truth from my side. I attached a photo of the will, with Samantha's name as the sole beneficiary. I posted snapshots of the mortgage payments, utility bills, insurance, all under my name. Then I included the last text I got from my mom, asking for $2,900.00 to save the house. I ended with one line. My silence wasn't consent. I was just waiting for the right moment to tell the truth. That moment is now. Within 10 minutes, the first comment appeared. "Hannah, you seriously did all of this? I can't believe it." An old friend commented, "You're one of the kindest people I know. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." Then, one by one, people started sharing the post. Some who had known my parents chimed in, many expressing surprise. I always thought Samantha lived pretty recklessly. Now it makes sense. No one should be taken advantage of like that, especially not by their own family. My post spread quickly, not because it was sensational, but because it was real. It was honest, and it didn't shy away. 2 days later, my mom took down all her posts. My dad deactivated his account. Samantha changed her profile picture to a black and white flower. The vague, dramatic move she always made when things slipped out of her control. I didn't respond. I didn't post anything else. I just sat in my apartment, listening to the rain tap softly on the window, and for the first time, felt justice on my side. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need them to bow their heads. I just needed them to stop. And it seemed, finally, they understood that I wasn't someone they could manipulate anymore. One post, enough to end the years I'd been forced into silence. And now, I was writing the next chapter not on social media but in real life. Since that day I posted, I haven't heard a word from Mom, Dad, or Samantha. Everything has been as still as a forgotten lake after a storm. But not the silence of waiting. This was the silence of acceptance. They had lost the only person who always came back after they broke everything. I was the opposite. I began to live. Every Monday morning, I headed to the art center to teach my first photography class for high school students. The way their eyes lit up holding a camera for the first time, the way they viewed the world through a lens. It reminded me that not everyone sees the same thing, and sometimes You have to choose your own angle. In the evenings, I took a part-time video editing course, a skill I'd always dreamed of learning but put off because my family needed me. Now no one needs me. And for the first time in my life, that felt freeing. I started going on evening walks, unhurried and carefree. I baked on weekends, posted pictures on Instagram without worrying about being called fake. I made new friends in class, people who didn't know me as the one who held the family together. And because of that, I finally got to just be me. While I was learning how to breathe, across town, the house at 218 Elm Street began popping up on real estate listings. A friend of mine, Marcus, now a realtor, texted me, "Hannah, your parents' house is up for sale. Asking $390,000, 0 cents, but no offers. Looks like they couldn't fix the roof or the faulty wiring." I wasn't surprised. No one to fix the fuse box at midnight, no one to replace the water heater or call the repair guy in time. No more me. That house had survived because of me. And now it reflected the truth. Neglected, run down, and with no one left who could keep it standing. I heard one more update from Lorraine, the elderly neighbor. She called just to check in, but before hanging up, she mentioned casually, "Oh, and it seems like Samantha's moved back in with your parents. I see her doing the grocery runs often. She doesn't look too happy." I looked up from my laptop and took a sip of my still warm coffee. In the past, hearing something like that would have made my chest tighten with worry. But now, I simply shrugged. Maybe what Samantha needed most was to experience the instability she used to so easily ignore. I wasn't glad they were struggling. I just no longer wanted to carry the weight of choices that weren't mine. For the first time in 10 years, my savings account was steadily growing. I booked a fall trip to Seattle to photograph the changing leaves. I put a deposit down on a new semi-pro camera, something I used to consider an unnecessary luxury. I was learning to take care of myself the way I once cared for an entire family. I also started writing again. Not defensive posts, but a blog about breaking away from toxic family dynamics. Some entries were widely shared. Many people messaged me, thanking me for saying what they never had the words to express. And on a rainy afternoon, while I was editing photos in my favorite cafe, my phone buzzed with a notification from a real estate site. Price dropped by $30,000, 0 cents on property at 218 Elm. Owner seeking urgent sale. I looked at the photo of the house. Dark roof tiles, rotting fence, peeling window frames. It used to symbolize duty, pressure, and expectation. Now it was just a house, waiting to be rescued. And I wasn't the rescuer anymore. I tapped hide notification, closed my phone, and smiled. A soft smile, lighter than air, but deeper than any sigh I'd swallowed over the years. I didn't belong there anymore. One early winter afternoon, I was walking around Liberty Lake with my new camera. The golden light of dusk cut through bare branches, casting soft beams across the water. I stopped, raised my camera, and captured the perfect frame. A little boy running in the distance, his mother behind him, laughing and calling out. In that moment, I realized some things aren't meant to be held onto, because they were never truly yours to begin with. I used to believe family was something you could never lose, that blood was an unbreakable bond. But now, I know. The thing that makes a family real isn't DNA, it's respect. And gratitude. I had given everything in hopes of being seen, and in return I became the name left off a will, the one called dramatic for refusing to carry others' burdens any longer. I wasn't angry anymore, not really. I had just let go. They still lived there, in that old house, now listed for the 3rd time. Word was, whenever someone came to view it, Samantha tried to act like a responsible homeowner, but when asked about maintenance records or repair bills, she'd just smile awkwardly. Because all those years, no one ever taught her what to do. I never went back, not once. My mother once sent me a handwritten letter, sealed in a familiar blue envelope with handwriting I knew by heart. She wrote about her sleepless nights, not knowing where to begin again. That Your father isn't as strong as he used to be. At the end, she wrote, I don't know how much time we have left to fix things, but if you're willing, I'm still here. I folded the letter. I didn't tear it. I didn't reply. I placed it in the drawer beneath my desk, next to undeveloped photos and half-finished drafts. Things that needed time to be understood and accepted. I didn't hate them. I just no longer had the strength to keep sacrificing without being heard. I kept working, kept teaching, kept creating and capturing. I even held a small photo exhibit at a friend's cafe, showcasing images that traced my journey to healing. Early mornings in the park, golden light on quiet streets, an elderly woman's thin hands holding a warm mug, a single flower fallen on cracked pavement. A middle-aged woman came up to me afterward, shook my hand, and said, I don't know why, but every photo of yours feels like it's speaking for someone who's been silent for a long time. I smiled, saying nothing, because she was right. I had spent my life staying quiet, for peace, for the role of the good daughter, for the hope that enough giving would earn me the love I longed for. But now, I've chosen a different kind of peace. Not one that comes from others' approval, but from finally choosing myself. I've learned how to love myself, unconditionally. I've learned to say no, without guilt. I've learned to let others face the consequences of their own choices. And most importantly, I've learned not to look back. They're still my family, on paper, in memory, but they're no longer at the center of my every decision. I don't know what the future holds, whether there'll be a reunion or if things will remain as they are, but that doesn't matter anymore. Because in the end, I finally understand. Family isn't just the people who share your last name. Family is the people who value your presence. The ones who don't treat your kindness like a duty. The ones who make you feel seen and chosen. And if none of them can do that, that's okay. Because I have a family me, and I don't need to look anywhere else. My story isn't a tragedy. It's an awakening. I once believed that love and sacrifice would always be rewarded, that family was unshakable. But the truth is, no one deserves to be taken for granted, not even by their own blood. I've learned to set boundaries, to walk away when necessary, and to choose myself without regret. Now I live with lightness, freedom, and peace, not because they changed, but because I changed myself. What do you think about Hannah's decision? Was she too harsh, or was this the only way to truly protect herself? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories about real family life.